Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and remember that Context is Everything Media Network founder and CEO, John Michael, is reading a textbook cover to cover. Today, coming to you from Context is Everything Studio C, we're going to be starting chapter 16, which is the first global age, Europe, the Americas, and Africa, from 1492 to 1750. With no review before today, as last episode from Friday was a review in itself of the previous chapter, I'll go right into it here with section 1 of chapter 16, starting on page 386, for those of you keeping count, of 1007. Chapter 16, the first global age, Europe, the Americas, and Africa. Section 1, Conquest in the Americas. Setting the scene. Spanish soldiers who reached the Aztec capital of Tenochtitlán in 1519 were amazed by its size and splendor. From the emperor's palace, reported one soldier, we had a clear view of the majestic temples of the nearby cities, built in the form of towers and fortresses, and others, all whitewashed in wonderfully brilliant white. Within a few years, the Spanish had captured and destroyed the Aztec capital. In its place, they built a new capital, Mexico City. That became the heart of the Spanish Empire in the Americas. First encounters. Heading. First encounters. In 1492, Christopher Columbus landed on the islands that are now called the West Indies in the Caribbean. There, he encountered the Taíno people. The Taínos lived in a village and grew corn, yams, and cotton, which they wove into cloth. They were friendly and generous towards the Spanish. Friendly relations soon evaporated. However, Spanish conquistadors, or conquerors, followed in the wake of Columbus. They settled on the island of Hispaniola, now the Dominican Republic and Haiti, Cuba, and Puerto Rico. They seized the gold ornaments worn by the Taínos, then made them pan for more gold. At the same time, the newcomers forced the Taínos to convert to Christianity. Meanwhile, a deadly but invisible invader was at work. Disease. Europeans unknowingly carried diseases such as smallpox, measles, and influenza, to which Native Americans had no immunity or resistance. These diseases spread rapidly and wiped out village after village. As a result, the Native American population of the Caribbean islands declined by as much as 90% in the 1500s. This cycle of disease and death was reported in many other places across the Western Hemisphere. Filthy conquistadores, right? The conquistadors. From Cuba, Spanish explorers probed the coasts of the Americas. They spread stories of empires rich in gold. Attracted by the promise of riches as well as the religious zeal, a flood of adventurers soon followed. Cortés in Mexico. Among the earliest conquistadors was Hernan Cortés. Cortés landed on the coast of Mexico in 1519 with about 600 men, 16 horses, and a few cannons. As he headed inland toward Tenochtitlán, he was helped by the Malinche, a young Indian woman who served as the translator and advisor. The Spanish called her Doña Marina. Malinche, I never heard of her, knew both the Mayan and Aztec languages, and she learned Spanish quickly. From Malinche, Cortés learned that many conquered people hated their Aztec overlords. The Aztecs, you will recall, sacrificed thousands of captives to their gods each year. Malinche helped Cortés arrange alliances with these discontented groups. They would help one another fight the Aztecs. Montezuma. That's how you spell Montezuma. There's no N. Moctezuma's dilemma. Meanwhile, messengers brought word that a newcomer to the Aztec emperor. Meanwhile, messengers brought word about the newcomers to the Aztec emperor, Moctezuma. He wondered if the leader of the pale-skinned, bearded strangers was Quetzalcoatl, or God King, who had long vowed to return from the east. Moctezuma sent gifts of gold and silver, but urged the strangers not to continue to Tenochtitlán. Cortés had no intentions of turning back. Fighting and negotiating by turns, he led his forces inland toward the capital. At last they arrived in Tenochtitlán, where they were dazzled by the grandeur of the city. The fall of Tenochtitlán. Moctezuma welcomed Cortés to his capital. However, relations between Aztecs and Spaniards soon grew strained as the Aztecs drove the Spanish from the city. Moctezuma was killed in the fighting. Cortés returned to plan an assault. In 1521, in a brutal struggle, Cortés and his Indian allies captured and demolished Tenochtitlán. An unknown Aztec lamented, "Broken spears lie on the road. We have torn our hair with grief. The houses are roofless now, and their walls are red with blood." On the ruins of Tenochtitlan, the Spanish later built Mexico City. Pizarro in Peru. Cortés' success inspired other adventurers. Among them was Francisco Pizarro. He arrived in Peru in 1532, just as after the Incan ruler Atahualpa won the throne from his brother in a bloody civil war. A civil war was fought between groups of people of the same nation. Helped by the Indian allies, Pizarro captured Atahualpa after slaughtering thousands of his followers. The Spanish demanded a huge ransom for the ruler. The Incas paid it, but the Spanish killed Atahualpa anyway. Despite continuing resistance, the invaders overran the Incan heartland. From Peru, Spanish forces surged across Ecuador and Chile. Before long, Spain added much of South America to its growing empire. Reasons for victory. And this is a pretty quick section if you ask me, because we're almost done. Reasons for victory. How could a few hundred European soldiers conquer huge Native American empires with populations in the millions? Several reasons explain the amazing Spanish success. 1. Superior military technology and key factors. The Spaniards' horses frightened some Indians who had never seen such animals. Imagine. Spanish muskets and cannons killed Indian soldiers, while metal helmets and armor protected the Spanish from the Indians' arrows and spears. 2. Division and discontent among Indians aided the Spanish. The Spanish won allies by playing on old hatreds among the rival Indian people. In fact, Indians provided Cortés and Pizarro with much of their fighting power. 3. And definitely pretty important, Disease brought by the Europeans weakened the Aztecs and the Incas. As tens of thousands of Indians died, some of their bewildered and demoralized survivors felt that their gods were less powerful than the gods of their conquerors. Now I think, and I might be wrong, that we gave the natives from the... Well, I mean, I guess I'm more native than I'm European. Either way, whatever. I have some native blood in me. But the Europeans went over and gave a lot of diseases to the natives, but the natives also gave some diseases to the Europeans that they brought back. I think... I'm not sure which one it was, but I'm pretty sure it was pretty bad for Europe as well. Many Indians believed that their disasters were suffered... the disasters they suffered were marks of the end of the world. To Aztecs, the destruction of Tenochtitlán signaled the end of the reign of the sun god. Ongoing resistance. Native Americans continued to resist the invaders, however. For years, Mayas fought Spanish rule. Long after the death of Atahualpa, revolts erupted among the Incas. Throughout the Americas, Indians resisted Europeans by preserving aspects of their own culture, such as language, religious tradition, and clothing. Looking ahead. The Spanish seized gold and silver statues and ornaments from the Aztecs and Incas. After depleting these sources, they forced Native Americans to mine silver in Peru and Mexico. In the 1500s and the early 1600s, treasure fleets sailed each year to Spain and the Spanish Philippines, all loaded with gold and silver. As you will read, this flood of wealth created both benefits and problems for the European economy. That's it. I hope you have a wonderful day, and join me again tomorrow for Spanish and Portuguese colonies in the Americas. Bye-bye.